Welcome to another episode of Shared Experiences. And today our topic is partnership, intimate partnership, walking an intimate relationship with another human being. And it is not easy. So today our guest is a wonderful couple. I have Thomas and Viji Evers, and they're going to be with us today to share their story about how they're walking their partnership. So to give you some background, Thomas was raised in central Illinois, and he's the youngest of two brothers. He has a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering and spent a number of years in corporate America. And then 3 years, he left his VP position to pursue his dreams to own his own business. Viji was born on the other side of the world, in Chennai, India. She was the fifth child in her family, and she was the only girl. She graduated at the top of her class in high school, and she expressed her desire to attend an Ivy League college in the North. And this was not okay. It was not okay for several reasons. One, her father was an accountant and her mother was a homemaker. And so they had a very modest salary. And so the priority would be for her four brothers to go to college instead of her. And also, in that culture, it wasn't okay for girls to go that far away to do her studies. But Viji was persistent, and she convinced her parents to let her go. And so she did, and graduated with honors, with a master's in management studies. 16 years later, she then pursued her ultimate dream to have an MBA in the US, and she did that in 2010. Now today, VG is a badass VP of solution engineering at a Fortune 100 company here in the US and leads a team of 750 technology strong and manages a $60 million budget. Did I say badass? Yes, I did. Both Thomas and VG have four children. According to VG, there's two brown and two white. Their names are Ellie, Benjamin, Arthi, and Sid. Ages 11, 12, 14, and 16 respectively. They also have a 5-year-old lab that you will probably see as we record this. She's like, 95 pounds? And her name is Hazel. They love being entrepreneurs. They own 14 acres of farmland where they grow their own veggies and are farm-to-table foodies. In fact, VG is a vegetarian. Thomas is not a vegetarian. You love meat.
I love meat.
And this is just the beginning of their differences, and you'll hear more. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having us.
And for saying yes to coming on Shared Experiences. So to begin, tell us about your spouse. VG, tell me about Thomas. How did you guys meet?
We met at work, and we were both in IT, and he was the domain architect at Humana, and that's how we met, and we were in the same department.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And that was how many years ago?
10 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
How many years married?
We've been married for a year and a half now.
A year and a half. So they're still in love.
We will always be in love.
Ooh. All right. And you guys have been married before, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So this is your second marriage for
for
both
each.
of you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. What drew you to Thomas? And I'm going to ask Thomas the same. What drew you to Thomas?
He's a genius. His extreme
Yeah.
intelligence and his way of simplifying everything. Because a lot of people, they think that their intelligence comes from complicating things and looking, very complex and everything. But his intelligence comes from simplifying it and being a very logical person.
What attracted you to VG?
A number of things. She's very persistent. She's very goal oriented and not sometimes in a bulldog way, but not usually.
Hard-headed is what he's saying.
No. And she's very smart. She's very socially smart about her communication, and she traverses the worlds, at a high level in the corporate world, down into the details incredibly well, and very few people can do that. And then, of course, just stating the obvious, she's beautiful.
He's someone that a lot of people have said I'm beautiful, but he really observed my inner beauty, my intelligence, and that's really another reason that attracted me to him.
What do you like the most about being in a relationship with Thomas?
that I have someone that to speak to about anything, right?
Yes.
I mean, I can be absolutely vulnerable and my weakest self with him, and he's always there. And I talk through things, whether it's a big corporate decision or a simple thing, I'm always able to speak anything with him. And, and he's so logical in the way he guides me. And, so yeah, we have wonderful conversation.
Does it help that he came from corporate America so he can relate?
Yes, it's more so he tells me that I need to learn from his mistakes. So yes, he knows the good and bad of the corporate America.
Were you always vulnerable or did it take time?
With him, we were friends, so absolutely, at an intellectual level, I was able to connect with him and talk about work. But after we started dating, that's when I was able to connect with him at a personal level.
And you, Thomas? What do you like most about being in a relationship with Viji?
She's very caring, and in ways that a lot of people wouldn't see. She comes home and she loves to cook. She loves to take care of people. You can see with the family. You can see how much joy she gets out of making other people happy. Yeah, a meal, and seeing how much they enjoy it.
She just cooked us a meal, so yes.
But then, at the same time being so focused on her career, and so the broad range is what I enjoy. I enjoy seeing it. Obviously, it's great for me to eat meals. But I love the back and forth we have about, what she's doing in the corporate world, and also I get the same benefit from an entrepreneurial standpoint about our business.
Yes.
That I'm constantly, throwing things at her to see, hey, what do you think of this?
What is the most challenging part about being in a relationship?
For me, it is what makes our thing click so well. It's the passion. So when we agree on something, we passionately agree on something. It's something we end up accomplishing something twice as fast at a minimum, right? But when we tend to disagree, that's the part of the relationship, the marriage that we're still figuring out is the how do you like in a business, right? He owns all the planning for the property development, and I own the interior decoration of the creative side. So there's still the, where can I make independent, when we disagree, where can I go off and still we agree to disagree, right? So that's the part I think we have to learn is when we disagree, we passionately disagree, and how can we we still navigate through that and say it's okay to disagree, rather than there's nothing personal in that.
Yeah.
So that's the part, that's the hard part for me is that part of the communication.
It's 16 years and I'm still busting my ass.
So I would say, and it's somewhat related, is we're go, and neither of us is a calm it down kind of person, and so we feed into each other. And so if I go, she's like, yeah, go more, right? And so a lot of times we tend to take on much more than we maybe should have. And so that means a lot of late hours, and stress can build up.
Yes.
And, if she happens to have a particularly stressful time at work, and I've got a particularly stressful thing with our business, sometimes those worlds don't collide the way you would like. And that's a challenge, and that's something we need to get better at, and being able to, when those stress levels come up, to be able to step back, and we always ultimately do, but to be able to step back and say, what's really important here, and what do we, fundamentally we can have an argument.
Yes.
But when we step back, we know that's just a point in time argument, right? And a lot of time born out of the stress levels and those sort of things.
Okay. And it won't last.
It won't last, and we know that,
Yeah.
I wish I could say I knew that in the moment.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard in the moment.
And I can't believe this is the worst it's ever been, which is probably not true. But in the moment,
Right, absolutely.
logic, totally logical. So let's go back to your previous relationships. What did you learn about yourself from your previous relationship?
From my previous relationships, the one biggest learning I had was I can't change anyone fundamentally who they are.
Sure.
Right? I can't change myself. I mean, in the sense, I can try to change, but sustainable change, like, so I was married to my previous husband, sweetheart, right? And very good person, very caring, but I was super ambitious. And I knew it going in that he's not as ambitious as I am. And I told myself, it's okay, he's a good guy. I can change him. And I tried to change him. I told him, I wanted to go do these so many different things. And I told him, I'll take a back seat, my career, right? Why don't you go pursue an MBA? Why don't you do this? Why don't you go pursue this career promotion? And he was content. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we were different personalities. And it took the first 10 years of my marriage, I tried to change him. And then I was frustrated. And at one point, he said, why don't you go do what you want to do? Just let me be. And so I still kept thinking I'm going to change him. And at one point, it was a midlife crisis when my dad passed away. Suddenly, that's when I stopped and started evaluating, what am I doing? And it occurred to me that I really cannot change him, and I can't change fundamentally who I am. I'm a driven person. I cannot be laid back, and he is a laid back person. He cannot be very ambitious. So that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to go pursue my own thing. And so that was something.
Is that when you went to do your MBA?
I went and after my dad passed away, within the next 60 days, I signed up. I went and got my GMAT. I went and signed up for my MBA. As soon as I graduated, I went and started my first restaurant, my franchise. And a year and a half later, I started the second restaurant. So I think that's probably when we kind of started. Until that point, I was trying to go and kind of drag him attached to my hip where I was going. And when I realized, who am I to change him? Then I started, that's when the divergence happened. I started running, chasing my dreams. And because I realized I was wrong. Right. And that's when we became, even farther different. Right. And I think that's my biggest learning is going into it, accept the person for who they are, and ask yourself, is this the person I want to be with for the rest of my life?
Am I excited about it?
Yes, right? Do I see my rest of my life with this person? So and I mean, that's exactly why I'm so stoked now, is I do see myself for the rest of my life with him. There's so much we want to do together, of course, except when we're fighting, right? And but I do. I mean, I really enjoy coming home and and sharing everything that happened and asking him for his perspective. And there's so much give and take that I totally love it.
Now you have to talk.
I'm out. I
What
can't
have you
top that.
learned from your previous relationships about yourself?
I need somebody who has confidence in themselves, and I can feed into it, but I can't make it. I can't make the confidence for the person. And for me, it became very draining when it felt like that confidence had to come entirely from me. Okay. For Viji and I both, we've talked about the difference between arrogance and confidence. Right. And
do you have a good definition? Do you have a good difference? What is the difference?
I think there's a genuine nature to it. Okay. There's the and even in, I don't know if I have a great definition.
Tell me what you see.
But I'll tell you, I think saying I don't know
exactly
can be a confidence thing, right? It's I don't have to give the impression of I'm an expert and I know everything, right. Because I do know I'm an expert on some things, and I have a basis for, whatever I get into. I don't know all the answers, but I know this little bit about it, and it's sort of like that, and I'll figure my way through it. And if it goes bad, it won't completely go wrong. We'll adjust course as we go, and so there's just a sort of a genuine nature to it. Whereas a lot of time arrogance comes from really a lack of actual confidence. It's the
pretend so?
Yeah. I'm going to put on the air of I know it all, right? And so I think for both of us, when we see that, it's just the teeth grit, and boy, that's just not good. And so, you know, we both, I think, have that confidence in self. And, you know, and that's something that I really appreciate about Viji, that I probably felt like I was on point for making previous relationship their source of confidence.
Did it take you a while to be comfortable in your own skin?
Yes.
Or you were always like that comfortable with who you are?
No, it took me. It's a maturity journey, right? When you're, you know, early in your career, there are all those insecurities, right? It's the fear of speaking up. It's the intimidation. It's thinking that these people are judging me, and I may be seen ignorant. So there are all of those phases, and as you speak up, the first time you speak up and ask a question, I don't know this, can you explain? And when people really don't treat you like an idiot, it's like, oh, it is okay to ask. So it is a learned thing. And as you surround yourself with knowledgeable people, with not like bigots, people that are not arrogant people, when you truly surround, and like Thomas, he encourages people. He doesn't assume that you know it all, and he'll start with a very simple, basic fact. So to me, it is people like Thomas that, I mean, I've built my confidence in going to my sources. He was a mentor for me when I was in my, he was a domain architect and I was a technology architect, and he had a broader scope, and I would go to him, and people like him are a source of my confidence, So, I mean, I think, and I'm still evolving, right? Because as I grow and as I interact with a different audience in an executive, in a board meeting, I'm still learning, in understanding where I do and, do not have the permission space to ask, and where I don't look ignorant and idiotic. And so it is a learning process. It doesn't come naturally.
I will tell you that she's not a traditional Indian woman. And that's the reason why I had to pause and ask you in terms of being comfortable in your skin with your style, your energy, your passion, because it's just not typical. And so I'm sure you're met time and time again, even today, with people like, and then it takes them a while to adjust to, this is who she is. Mm-hmm. So, what did you always give yourself permission to be that authentic? Or did you go through periods where you had to play with how much you can be authentic, depending on where you are?
Well, I mean, to me, the authenticity is a non-negotiable, right? I hate fake people, and that is. I mean, and to me, a person's authenticity comes from who they are inside. It's not how much wealth I own, what a flashy car I drive, or what's my title. Those are extraneous things, right? Authentic connections come from deep within.
All right. So we're going to talk in terms of deal breakers, right? What is the most important thing to you in a relationship? Do you have a deal breaker? Let's start with Thomas.
Do I have a deal breaker? Honesty is a big one. That's, a deal breaker. I don't know beyond that. I mean, that's got to be the big one, yeah.
For me, it's of course honesty and respect. And
what does respect look like to you?
Respect is being open to other person's perspective, and giving them the opportunity that they do know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So there are some times where, I feel like, even in our entrepreneurial relationship, where I feel like maybe I should have a say in this, and then he feels like he has to make the decision, and one of us goes off and makes a decision without the other person's consent, then that seems disrespectful. So I think, to me, it is when there are, first of all, being able to respect each other's opinion, their viewpoint, and then when we are not aligned, taking the effort to get aligned. And it could still be that we still have differences of opinion, but getting aligned, it takes effort, right?
It does.
If you say, I don't care, I'm going to go do whatever I want anyway, that is disrespectful.
Understood.
So, yeah.
I have to ask, because words mean different things to different people. Mm. I think honesty is a little bit less vague. I pray. People don't know what honesty is. That's a problem. But respect, certain words will mean different things to different people, and respect is one of them. What has this partnership revealed about you? Did you learn something new in this new relationship as opposed to the others?
You go first.
Yeah, I think so. I'm from middle of Illinois, farm country, baling hay, right? And the town I grew up in, 16,000 people, 15,900 white people, and in fact, I'm probably overstating the 100 that were not. So, and then even when I went to college, they, not much different, right? So for me, when I got into IT, there's a lot of Indians in IT, and I made friends with Indians right away. And I like the food, I like the culture, I like to know about these different things, right? I'm very curious. So what our relationship has kind of, I guess, told me about myself is that curiosity is much deeper than the surface level little bit that you would get to experience in an office setting, And so it turns into, you should see the bags of beans of different sorts in our cupboard, right? Well, it turns out Indians cook with a lot of, they call them dal, right?
Yeah.
Different beans, right? Well, what are those for, right? And it's little stuff like that. You wouldn't think that's nothing, right? But for us, being from so different backgrounds and everything, there's infinite number of things that I can ask details about.
Taste and experience.
Yeah.
Indian street food, you brave man. Give me 5.
Yeah.
Spicy food, 5 out of 5.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you another one. You've seen the Indian sari?
No.
Right, the dress, the sari, right?
Yes. When you say sorry, I can pick it up. So yeah.
Right. So everybody has seen that, right? Everybody has seen that, but
I have. It's beautiful.
Indian.
You own one.
I own more than one.
Where I grew up, if you saw an Indian woman, you would stand back. You wouldn't probably look directly. You would kind of, try not to stare, kind of thing, right? In our relationship, I can say, how does this thing work, right? Oh, it's 6 yards, right, of fabric, right? I know that now, right? Here it wraps around. You accordion a certain way. You tuck it in. No chance I'm going to get to experience all of the curiosity of different culture if not for this. So what's exposed about me is now it's like getting a taste of it, right? Now I'm aware that, no, I want to go see Thailand. I want to go see,
see different worlds.
Yeah. So it's really kind of stirred up the curiosity about there's so much out there, right?
Okay.
For me, what this relationship has shown me is once you get to know someone, I don't see him as a white person anymore, right? I don't see him as someone, he's a meat eater, and all the differences. Yeah. Those are initial. Maybe the first time you meet, you see. But at some point, he tells me this too. You no longer see the other person as someone different, because that superficial connection points vanish. Right? They're not relevant anymore. And so in the beginning, when we were dating, he would come in, like he would drop me off at the Indian store, and I'm like, oh, I have this white boyfriend, and I'll ask him to wait in the car while I go quickly shop and come back. But now I don't. I like yesterday I had this. There was this International Women's Symposium. It was a room full of 100 plus, beautiful Indian women, and I was like insisting that he should go with me, because I no longer see him as this white husband of mine. He's my husband, and there's when you start connecting at the deeper level, you forget that those differences exist. Maybe others may still see it. For us, that difference doesn't exist anymore. We're people. We are, two people in love, two people that love to hang out. Everything else is irrelevant.
Wow. So we're going to move to misconceptions about relationships, about partnership, about marriage. So was there one big thing that you used to believe about marriage, or a misconception that now you look at totally different now that you're in a second marriage?
Yes. So my first marriage, my first marriage was a traditional Indian marriage, and the social expectation is the marriages are forever, and you have to be married. It's not that you're in love forever; you have to be married forever. And to me, when it's an imposed relationship. At some point, to me, it's all about respecting this other person, wanting to be married to him, being in love with him for the rest of my life. So in India, in South India, traditional South India, we don't have the concept of dating, right? And so it is an arranged marriage. So the parents, there is a horoscope, and these are like star placements. When you were born, you get a horoscope. And when the girl is ready for marriage, they seek out horoscopes of other, grooms, and they do a match. And it's a 10-point match. And if you're 8 or above, it's a good match. So it's purely, it's two mathematical diagrams, and making, if they match, you're supposed to be a good fit. And that's it, right? And it's an arranged marriage, and so you have to have a horoscope match. And so to me, it was horrifying, because here you are, you don't even know this person, and they do this horoscope match, and and there is no exit. You're supposed to be married forever. And so growing up, I questioned a lot of those. You do this because this is how we've always done it. My mom would say, yeah, don't question it. This is how we've always done it. So to me, it's someone, that challenged everything. It's like, okay, can I get to know the person? No. So if I marry him, is there an exit if we don't get along, if we are different? No, right? So that was a big misconception that was taught to us, is that this is it. Well, you're going to marry, you're going to be in this relationship forever. There's, it doesn't matter whether what's the compatibility in that. And so I believed that, right? And I was terrified, because I thought this is it. And and then people, they just stay married because socially it's unacceptable to divorce. So to me, the biggest misconception in my growing up was it's irreversible, right? But then now in my second marriage, to me, I know it is reversible, but I'm staying in it because I want to, right? And this is my choice. And I love this, and I have a responsibility in this. It's not something that's imposed on me, right? So I feel empowered, and I also know that I am here because I want to be here.
Right.
So
interesting.
So I would say, and this may sound bad when I say it initially, your spouse doesn't have to be your absolutely everything. And so,
what? Say that one more time.
Your spouse doesn't have to be just your absolutely everything. And what I mean by that is, they're the person you love. They're the person you go talk to, when you need somebody to talk to. There are a lot of things. But I'll tell you, she doesn't like the details on everything. She doesn't like me to get down in the weeds.
Technicalities, very technical.
Right?
Yes.
So I call my brother and we talk for hours, right? And that's fine.
That's good.
Right? But I think a lot of times, and the reality is we get along great. Viji and I, we're great friends. We're so in love. We're great friends. We want to be together all the time. We have the same hobbies. We do happen to be that same thing on a lot. But it doesn't have to be. And I think a lot of times with marriage, there's a sense of,
you have to be my all.
You have to be my all. And that's a lot of pressure, and if that's your expectation going into it and somebody isn't, then you start to feel like it's not right, it's a failure in some way. And that doesn't, that's not healthy. That's not a good, that's not a good thing.
This is
Hi, Hazel.
Hazel.
the lab that we were talking about. And you hear
Hi
walking
there.
around throughout this episode.
She's
That's Hazel.
she's jealous that he's been spending all this time with me.
We'll snuggle later, okay?
So one of the major purposes of this series is for people to kind of understand that their experiences are not unique. Their triumphs and their challenges are not unique. So is there a particular season, one of the most challenging seasons that both of you had to walk through together that really tested you? Can you walk us through it, and how did you get through it?
Do you want to go first? Puppy?
I would say, I guess it was before we got married for me, when there were times we worked together, right? And so there were times when she would get a promotion at work, and you started to have to learn the happiness because of somebody else's success. And sometimes we were in the exact same area, right? So in some ways, we might have been competing for same positions, and so for me,
He was way more qualified than me.
that's
in everything.
not true, not true. But for me, it was that challenge of finding that if I didn't get something that I thought I might have been, what's the word, eligible for, a good fit for, and that she did, that, kind of balancing that out was a hard time for me. And ultimately in my corporate job when we worked together, I found, and this is in hindsight, but she says I was more qualified. This is not true, and I'll tell you why. I don't navigate the politics very well, and I do pretty well on the technical side. I can hold my own against most folks there, and I didn't really understand until probably too late that understanding that not just how to navigate the politics, but the importance of the politics and even in a positive light, that she's way better than I am at it. I mean, infinitely better. And so, at the time, it was a hard thing. It was a really hard time for me to start to see that my career in a big corporate setting wasn't quite as bright as I would hoped, based on technical expertise being the thing that mattered, when in reality, politics is really important. And so, seeing that she was really good at both sides, frankly. And so her career is, done very well, as it should. They're really great for seeing that. But that doesn't mean that, kind of the personal versus the couple, and balancing those, sometimes they're not always the same thing.
Yeah.
And that was a challenge for me. Ultimately, and now in hindsight, I wasn't a better qualified person than she was by any stretch. And now I just, I hope they kind of, the powers that be continue to see that she's really fantastic, and so it's easy now, right? But when you're in competition, it's not always so easy.
So I'm going to stay here. We're going to get back to you. And the reason why I'm going to stay here is because I have a lot of people who have difficulty in this area. I talk mostly to the females who feel it from their significant other, and they don't have to be in the same company. But when their career or whatever they're pursuing is going at a monumentally faster rate, or the pay is different and more and than their male spouse, it does cause challenges in the relationship. And I remember a particular young man even crying to me and saying, I feel horrible as a partner, but I just don't want her to be better than me. I want us to do as well or for me to be better, but it feels like I'm less off if my wife is doing and providing more money than I, and they can just seem to shake that feeling of being less than. So the question I have for you is that what did you do in that time to go through it? Can you think of it, or is it just passing over time? Was there something that you can share with a particular young man going through it so that they don't ruin their marriage? Because it can.
Well,
Because the feeling is real. Because I don't know, but the feeling is
the
real.
feeling
so what
is
do you do
real,
with
sure.
The feeling, right? How do they navigate and manage that?
I don't know if I have
If you did well,
I don't know if I did well in it, honestly.
It was just a matter of time of going through it.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't recommend this, but this sounds awful. If you can redirect the rage at someplace else, you know.
Get a project or something.
Yeah, or just, you know, maybe she's not the one to blame, right? Maybe it's somebody else not seeing that you have value, and maybe it's yourself for not being able to, you know, show that value.
Okay.
So ultimately, I think, you know,
Just don't direct it at her.
Yeah, redirect. That's probably not a great answer.
Hey, it's something.
It's something, and maybe it's a starting point.
It's a starting point.
But, you know, ultimately, I think the really the healthy thing, and this may be even more of a cop out, where we're at now is it is such a shared goal for us, and so I don't know if it's always possible, but you know, you at some point have to say, you know, if anything happened with her job tomorrow, I'm on point for us, right? If anything happened with our business, you know, now she's on point for us. We've got each other's back on this, right? So, you know, if you can get to the point where you kind of see it's all one pot.
There you go.
There's
it's
one
all
team.
one
We're
pot.
one team.
I'm so happy you came to
You
that.
know,
Absolutely.
but getting to that, you know, getting the
Mentally,
ego out of it,
yeah.
you know, it's can
not
be
easy.
hard. Yeah.
But it's all one pot.
Yeah.
It is. We're
It's
one
not
team.
my money or her money. It's one pot.
Yeah.
I think those two things are great. So when you're going through the rage and you're going through that feeling, try to redirect it not towards your wife. That's number one. And two, try to look at it as one team, one money, one pot. All right, your challenging season. What you can think of.
My challenging season was going through divorce and how it was completely unacceptable. My mom was visiting, and she somehow felt like she didn't do her job of a mom raising me well. That's how she was afraid her Indian, culture, Indian society is going to see her. So for about 3 years after my divorce, I visited home, and I realized that she has not told anybody. None of the closest relatives, my brothers, my family knew. I had told them, but she hadn't told her sisters or my aunts, anybody, any extended family. And then even like we had a maid, a servant maid who was part of our family. She worked for my mom for like 18 years. And she didn't even tell her. She comes home every day. So when I went home to visit, that's really when I realized that she's keeping up this facade of, and even like she has a picture of me and my ex-husband in her living room even today, right? So in a culture, that's her reality. She is very worried and afraid of how society is going to judge her, and that's a large part of who she is, right? She's not a very bold, a very strong person. She's an amazing lady. I love her. She does not have too many world experiences, so she feels like her whole world is that extended family, and they're going to judge her and they're going to disown her. So that's my difficult part, was going home and realizing that mom was ashamed of me, right? To an extent, to cover up the divorce. And so then that opened up a whole other can of worms. Now I'm paranoid because these are my cousins and my uncles, and they're on Facebook with me. And now I'm going back and rethinking, what are those posts, and have I been in pictures with Thomas or others, and what are they going to think of me? And so it's a whole cultural mess that was, and then my mom accepting him. She loves him even to date. She loves him, but she wouldn't accept him in public. She would accept him within closed doors. And so, because again, by publicly acknowledging him as her future son-in-law, she somehow felt like she was legitimizing something that she shouldn't be. And so but I mean, we struggled through it, and finally she came around, and and I didn't, I love her. She's 82 years old and a very, traditional Indian woman, and I wanted her blessing. And so finally we had our wedding reception in this house, and my mom was here. She blessed us, and we had a mommy daughter dance here. That was the day. And then those pictures were all over Facebook, and I asked her, Mom, I'm going to post these. Are you comfortable with this? She said yes, and she was happy, and she had come around. And so that was like after my divorce, before my wedding, we were engaged for 3 years. And that 3 years was a testing time of, I was after my divorce. After my divorce, we got engaged 3 years after my divorce. And so there was that period in between where she didn't publicly acknowledge my divorce, and then she didn't publicly acknowledge my relationship, or, so it was a complicated mess. But we didn't, again, disrespect is me telling her, I don't care, but I did care. So I did continue to convince her that, Mom, you need to, but it was funny because they would have language differences, right? And so he would open up a translator app and try to talk to her through a translator app, and she would put something in English and, translate it in Tamil for her. And, at one point, and I've said this to other people, I told her, she's like, I can't communicate with your husband. I don't speak, or you're my future son-in-law, your fiance, because I don't speak the same language. And I told her, Mom, how do you talk to Hazel, right?
The lab.
My chocolate lab, right? Do you speak dog? No, she speaks to the dog the entire day. And Hazel understands Tamil, apparently. But, to me, I told her, look, you don't need a language to communicate. You just need to open your heart. And which, that was probably an aha moment for her, to see how close-minded she was. And, and so then she made a conscious effort to accept him. And that started the healing journey of her, openly accepting him and really appreciating what, how happy we were. So that was, to me, that was the most challenging part. And again, when even the whole Indian community here, what are they going to, are they going to judge? And I am not the person that really, cares. To me, it's the, as if you don't truly respect me and appreciate me for who I am, I don't really need you in my life, right? So there was that whole journey of realizing who your true friends are and who you really, are superfluous, that you don't care about. That was the journey of self-realization and that nirvana, right? Because in the end, at the other end of it, people that have stuck with me are people that are in it for the long haul. They love me, and they're going to be by my side for the rest of my life.
Share one trait that you admire the most. If you close your eyes and you think of a trait that you admire the most about Thomas, what comes to mind?
He's a hottie. Can you erase that?
Philosophical. I got that.
That can't be it. That can't be it.
Oh my God! It's when I told her to close her eyes. I think that's
I can't take him out of my head now. I'm teasing. No, I really think it's his intelligence.
You said
absolutely.
Yes,
it is. It was then. It still is. It will.
So his brain is sexy.
He's.
So when you said hottie, it was his brain.
He's super hot. Of course. Absolutely.
It's not this. It's not this. Nobody thinks that.
Oh, that's not true, Thomas.
He's super sexy on the inside and out.
Aw.
Yeah,
What
truly.
about you,
Yeah.
Thomas? You close your eyes.
I don't.
By the way, if you say the same thing, it's not going to be taken the same way.
I know what it is. I don't know how to describe it.
I'll try. Take your
It's
time.
it's the it's that she's, I guess, very genuine. You know, she's very much who she is. You know, and it's right out there, and it's very honest, right? So, like when she met my family, no change, right? She's still laughing. She and my dad.
Oh, yes.
Oh man, they're trouble together. My dad, he likes to have fun, and Viji loves to cook, and she'll get the blender out and start making mixed drinks. And my dad is just keep them coming kind of thing. And next thing you know, they're having a party, you know, and you wouldn't expect it, right? I mean, he's whatever he is, 72, something like that, and they get along so well. And she doesn't change a thing. It's who she is, whether it's with my dad, you know, or people at work or, you know, travel. It's always the same.
Yeah, my aunt-in-law, she told me if we ever were to split, they'll choose me. They'll go with me.
I think they might.
No, I'm teasing, but yeah, it's a beautiful
It's
family.
absolutely refreshing. What he just described. You said you were saying you don't know how to describe it. I think you did a great job.
Oh,
Oh, that's what he sucked me in like a moth to a flame. I'm like, oh my god, she's even better than what you described. Because Karen talks about her, and he's telling me, describing everybody's going on the trip and stalking Grant. He was stalking Grant for like quite some number of years to go to India, and I'm like, she's even far better than what you described.
You know, I got to tell the story about her, which is sort of, and you asked this earlier, and I maybe should have even mentioned this. We used to, when we were working together, we would go for walks and get coffee. And we would walk through this convention center, and there was a janitor there every day.
Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn, right? Every day we'd walk through, and you'd see the janitor. And this guy he's a faceless person, right? He is the faceless person that everybody else walks past every day, right? She knows Glenn, right?
He does a good job.
So that's what I'm saying. She's the exact same person with everybody. She says hi to Glenn, right? Nobody knows Glenn.
Work
right?
ethic. I tell you, I respect work ethic. And that guy is working his butt off, you know, like, you know, touching up every little detail. And I'm like, I stopped and, you know, I'm like, hey, this is looking good. And I think, you know, people don't acknowledge, you know, every profession is respectable.
But on a serious note, though, your energy is just authentic. This is it. This is what you're gonna get all the time. So whether you're at work and you're in that conference room, and because I passed you, what's the big old conference room that I saw her at, and she's like there, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, just like let him have it, because I piggyback to work with him. Is it what? Hall of Justice. And if it's haggling on the streets of India, and you're gonna get that price, It's just authentic.
I mean, that's the thing that attracts me in you, in Karan. I mean, you guys are real people. I mean, that's what I love him for, and his family, is the realness of it. And it's not two-faced. Because the thing is, I do have some people that would invite me because of my position and stuff like that. So tomorrow, if I don't have my position, I'm a nobody to them, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the thing that to me, I don't have a halo around my head because of if the role is what defines me, then I'm very shallow, right? So and that reciprocal is if they are friends with me because of some material reason, that's very shallow. So, and I don't need that. I don't need quantity, I need quality.
Quality. So the last question I have for both of you is your love language. When do you feel most loved? And the reason why I'm asking is for me and Karen and a lot of, we used to love each other the way how we want to be loved. So the way what I like and what I enjoy, I give to him, and he's supposed to like it because, logically that's what he enjoys. So we have learned that my love language is very different from his love language. What makes him feel loved is not the same thing that makes me feel loved. So that's why we asked this question. What is your love language, Thomas?
Well, okay, so I know what I appreciate, and I know how she shows love, right?
Yes.
She shows love by cooking, right? Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. I appreciate love when I'm tired and I would like for somebody to rub my head and relax me. And she doesn't do that very often. But
That's a silent language. We don't speak that language.
but there's touch. There's touch. We hold hands.
Do you know what the love languages? I don't know. Anyways, I don't want this to make this about the book, but there is a book about the 5 love languages, I think. But one is the physical touch.
Yeah. So we hold hands, and that's probably the.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he rubs my hair the wrong way.
She yelled at me. Tell me this. Like everybody would love to have their head rubbed, right?
Yes.
When they're sleepy, it's really nice, right?
But there's a way. There's a method.
I know.
No, don't tell me that. No,
Right?
no, because I was rubbing her hair, I guess, the wrong direction or something. I got yelled at for it. I'm like, come on.
Do you rub it in the right direction now? Have you learned the right direction?
No, I don't know what I'm doing. No.
You guys crack me up. What is your love language?
For me, it's him making things. He's very creative.
Yes.
So when he, I give him a long list of honey-do list, right? And I know he has, a big long list of, he's always working. But there, when he stops doing that, and this may not be anywhere in his priority, but when he says, well, it's not my priority, it is yours. So I'm going to take care of that, which means he has to work long hours to get the rest of the stuff done. But that is very romantic for me in the sense of prioritizing what's important to me and making time for that. And I really appreciate it when he does that. And rubs my head the right way.
Hers is acts of kindness in the book of the love languages.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the holding hands.
Yeah. So what made you say yes to coming on this?
Well, so yes to the episode because of you guys.
Yes.
You're great. And so,
love
Viji
you.
touched on this as well, is we like authentic people. You clearly are. And your personality is infectious and it's so great. So it's an honor to be able to sit down and chat with you and be in your show.
Yeah, it's amazing. The one thing I remember about our India trip is we go into this beautiful jewelry store and I'm picking out all these. I'm like, hey, girl, try this. And she looks at me and she goes, that doesn't look good on me. I don't want it. And then she went on and, she didn't, no, there's no BS. It's not going to look good on me. Don't waste your time. And I'm like, she's awesome. I love her. That genuine, that honesty.
I know what I like.
Exactly. She's a strong woman.
I don't need all of that ruby. Whatever.
You're
lots of jewelry store, but I'm like, no, this is.
Yeah. And her, she's such a strong woman, and Karan is such a quiet supporter, and that dynamic between you two, right? You guys are the bomb, I tell you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of Shared Experiences. And we hope you enjoyed listening to their story. And I hope it changed your perspective so that you know that what you're going through is not unique. Challenging relationships, it's okay, right? You can go through your challenges and it can still be very good, positive, strong relationship nonetheless. And it's also a wonderful thing to be in a partnership and a relationship with another human being. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.